Africa was never ready for democracy. In this video, I want to briefly discuss the origins of democracy and then take you through the evolution of democratic systems in the UK, Germany, France, Italy, Japan, and the USA. I will explain when these countries became the democracies that we know today and how this process developed naturally. Democracy will struggle to be effectively implemented in societies where the economy is underdeveloped and people are divided by language, culture, and history. It is unlikely to succeed among people who have not lived and grown together. Democracy originated in Athens around 507 BC, established by Cleisthenes to provide people power, demokratia. This direct system allowed adult male citizens to vote on legislation while excluding women, slaves, and foreigners. The democracy of 507 BC would be considered a dictatorship by today's democratic standard. The United Kingdom did not transition to democracy on a specific date. Instead, it evolved gradually over centuries, marked by several Reforms Acts. Key milestones in this evolution include the parliamentary reform in 1832, the extension of suffrage to the working class in 1867 and 1884, and the achievement of universal suffrage in 1918 and 1928. Full democratic equality, defined as one person, one vote, was realized in 1948. By today's standard, the democracies of the UK in 1850 would be considered a dictatorship. In 1700, the United Kingdom as a single political entity did not exist. However, England, along with Wales, was already a highly developed, prosperous, and globally influential commercial power. While the Industrial Revolution is typically dated to the mid-18th century, recent research suggests that Britain was already becoming a nation of makers with a rapidly changing economy by the 1700s. The situation is similar in Germany, France, Italy, the USA, and Japan. In 1700, present-day Germany consisted of hundreds of independent principalities and city-states, largely under the Holy Roman Empire. Germany became a democracy following the November Revolution of 1918, just over a century ago. By 1700, France was the most powerful, populous, and culturally dominant nation in Europe, ruled by King Louis XIV. It had a highly centralized absolute monarchy and a vast overseas colonial empire. France became a stable democracy with the establishment of the Third Republic in 1870. In 1700, the Italian peninsula was divided into independent city-state, duchies, and kingdoms. By 1946, a popular referendum abolished the monarchy and established the Italian Republic, marking Italy's transition to democracy after World War II. This change occurred less than 100 years ago. In 1700, the United States did not exist as a country. Instead, it was composed of separate British colonies along the Atlantic coast. The transition to democracy began with the Declaration of Independence in 1776 and continued with the Constitutional Convention in 1787. The United States is generally considered to have become a functioning democracy for most white males during the period known as Jacksonian democracy, approximately 1828 to 1926. This democratic participation expanded with the ratification of the 15th Amendment in 1870, which granted voting rights to African American men, followed by the 19th Amendment in 1920, which extended suffrage to women. The modern era began in Europe in the late 15th century, and the founders of the United States, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand were Europeans who brought their modern era culture to the New World. By 1700, Japan was a highly advanced, sophisticated, and urbanized society. Japan enjoyed a long era of peace, economic growth, and cultural development during the Edo period, which was between 1603 and 1867, under the Tokugawa shogunate. Japan's modern constitutional democracy was established in 1947, which is also less than 100 years ago. It is important to understand that during the modern era, European countries were already advanced nations, while Africa was still largely in the Stone Age era. The continent never existed as a country. It was composed of chiefdoms with a few kingdoms. Black Africans lacked the infrastructure and organization necessary to form nations like those in the West and Japan. After several decades of colonial rule, Europeans back home began to protest against colonialism. As Africans became educated themselves and now aware of things, they too started protesting colonialism. This growing discontent ultimately led Europeans to relinquish control and grant independence to many African nations as colonialism soured. The Africans, lacking the mental maturity that underpinned the foundations of European democracies, adopted a system of governance that contributed to the mess we see in Africa today. Democracy requires strong institutions and independent judiciary, the rule of law, and the infrastructure to support the constitution that upholds these principles. Unfortunately, none of the African countries had it. First, many African societies were not unified and did not naturally develop into cohesive nations. Allegiance often lay with tribal identities rather than the newly formed nations. For example, if a person from Liverpool viewed someone from Bristol as a foreigner, it would hinder the idea of a unified England. Over centuries, however, the people of England grew into a nation. It took them time. In contrast, many African nations did not have the same historical development. The complexity of thousands of languages and chiefdoms across the continent was rarely fully understood by the Europeans, who had not encountered such a wide range of cultural differences and incompatibilities. What Africa truly needs is a strong leadership akin to that of figures like Paul Kagame or Ibrahim Traoré, capable of lasting for decades or even a century. Such leadership would encourage various tribal and ethnic groups to adopt a unified national identity and language, eliminating the confusing multitude of languages and identities. Such environment of unity would promote collaboration and lay the groundwork for democracy to thrive. Historically, many civilizations have been led by strong leaders who fostered a sense of national identity among their people. Subsequent generations then inherit this newly formed identity, which helps establish a cohesive nation composed of unified citizens. That's why it has been easier for the already mature European nations to expand globally and replicate their success elsewhere. If 10,000 Japanese were given an island anywhere in Africa, they would likely create another Japan within 50 years. While there are some Africans here and there obtaining 10 PhDs and another who outperforms all of their white and Japanese classmates may showcase individual talent, it does not accurately reflect the standard of a people. The science of running country is not based on individual academic achievements, but rather on the underlying evolutionary processes that shapes its philosophy and worldview. From Prussia's victory, which unified the Germans under Otto von Bismarck, to the shogunate in Japan, to the 1776 Declaration of Independence in the USA, where a military alliance established the nation under the Constitution of 1887. These are some of the fundamental elements of nation building. A successful nation requires unity, a common language, shared culture, and a cohesive identity. Many Black African countries have yet to achieve this unity, which is why nations like Morocco, Egypt, Tunisia, Algeria, Qatar, the UAE, Kuwait, and Indonesia, which were also colonized, are ahead of Black African countries, even though they too are third world. These countries all have a unified language, all have the same identity. Nigeria is not a nation, neither are Cameroon, Gabon, the Democratic Republic of Congo, or Mozambique, or even Zambia. They are countries, don't get me wrong, but they lack a strong national identity. Over time, they have not managed to overcome tribal differences, which is essential for developing a unified Nigerian, Cameroonian, Zambian, Congolese, or Mozambican identity, like those seen in Germany, France, England, and the United States or Japan. The president of Burkina Faso, Guinea, and Rwanda, Ibrahim Traoré, Mamadi Doumbouya, and Paul Kagame can implement changes quickly. Major infrastructure projects can be completed in just a few months, and legislative processes do not require lengthy parliamentary debate filled with complex grammar from people who hold differing cultures, language, and worldviews. Often, their loyalty lies more with their tribe or ethnic group than with the nation as a whole. Africa may require a benevolent dictator. If ethnic groups like the Igbo, Yoruba, Hausa, Fang, Oromo, Kikuyu, Ashanti, Bemba, Shona, Ovimbundu, or Luba wish to establish functioning nations, they must be willing to sacrifice their culture, language, and ethnic identities for the countries they now find themselves in. This is essential for creating a unified national identity. Without this willingness to sacrifice their identity, we will be discussing Africa's poverty, tribal wars, and underdevelopment in the next 2 centuries. Democracies in Africa look like a show of craziness, whilst democracies in the West look like a natural act of a system inherent in the quality of the people. Why? You cannot promote democracy among people who lack the foundational pillars of democracy. It's like trying to sail a boat on dry land. If you think we're wrong, if you think we missed anything, please leave them in the comment section below. And also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.